Hello everyone and welcome to the penultimate round of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. This week we head to the Nürburgring Grand-Prix Strecke, and it's the sprint Strecke layout we'll be running here today. My name is Connery Maddock and I'm joined by Jake Sperry and a very, very special guest indeed. He's the one, the only Tony Kanaan, Indy 500 winner, IndyCar Championship winner, and of course winner of the Daytona 24 as well, Tony. I don't need to list off your resume necessarily introducing you, but it's great to have you here for this broadcast.
Thanks guys, it's awesome to be here. Exciting day. I mean, I'm nervous. I have a few friends and a couple guys there that were cheering on. It's getting closer to the cutoff, so we'll see what's going to happen.
Yep, it is. We are getting towards the very back end of the season now, Jake. Just 2 more race meetings to go, just 4 more races to get done with here before we know which of the 15 drivers here today get themselves a slot in the Supercup season.
And doesn't that mean that every single point means more? If we look at the Contender Series standings right now, yes, there's the championship battle between Peter Berryman and Duomas Battler. That's 5 points. That's worth keeping an eye out on. But the gap right now that Alexei Niesov has over Bryn Collins is an important 17. It's not often that we talk about that sort of gap. In fact, I'll correct myself, it's not 17, it's 23 points. So he's got even more of a buffer right now, but it's a 3-car tie, 13th, 14th, 15th. And Tony, I know you've been in a situation before where you've been ahead by that sort of margin and behind by that sort of margin. What do you think those sorts of drivers are going to be thinking about at that moment if they're ahead or behind?
Jake, it's going to be a mixed emotions today. I think there are 15 guys there trying to manage, saying, I'm going to try to stay here. And everybody else behind is like, I'm going to go get you. I personally would prefer not to be at the ideal place. I would probably prefer to be on the outside, 16, 17, because you don't have, you have nothing to lose. But I have to say, people will be doing math the entire race. And I think the best strategy here is some guys are going to be trying to manage the advantage. Other guys are just going to go for it and try to win, because obviously by winning, you're taking care of everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely you are, and well, we are heading, of course, to one of the crowns in the top echelons of motorsports racing circuits. We head to the Nürburgring, not the full GP layouts here, however, Jake. We're here at the sprint Strecke, slightly shortened compared to what we used to see.
Absolutely, there is no use of the bottom half of the circuit with the Schumacher S. That's the Mullenbacher Schleif of the circuit. We take a hard right over at the Kazambingdung corner, which is a very difficult corner to get right because it's down the hill, off cam, and then it crests back up as you head for the left and right of turn numbers 6 and 7. It's going to be very, very important to keep in mind where the overtaking opportunities are. Watch out for that chicane, turns 9 and 10. That's going to be crucial. And down into turn number 1, the track really does narrow off for that section. It falls away down the hill, very similar to turn 2 at Sepang. It's a very similar style of corner, so drivers are going to be looking to try and use as much of the road as possible there.
Of course, Tony, you've run at this racetrack in the real world. It was a couple of decades ago. You'll be the first to admit that, and not exactly on this layout. But just take me through the circuit, just from a driver's perspective. A
very particular circuit, especially this layout. I have to say, there's a lot of momentum going on in some of the corners. To me, only 2 places to pass. Down into turn 1, the proper places to pass. Turn 1, and then you're going to see side by side into turn 2 because of that. And in the chicane. The chicane, it's very particular. To me, that S is, every time I went through it, and actually I did race in real life on that chicane, you have the impression that you could have gone deeper, you could have gone quicker. Then the next lap, you try 10 meters, and it's too late. So it's going to be a little bit of, especially here, with the X's and also the slowdown, they're going to have to watch. But it's a corner that invites you. Every time you go through it, it's going to invite you to go deeper. And the limit of the margin of error there, it's very small.
Yeah, incredibly small. And if we see side-by-side through that section, then that could be a recipe for disaster in a lot of cases. We are riding on board with Simone Maria Marciano, though. This is your feature race winner from last time out here that we're on board with currently. It was an emphatic win for Marciano in that previous event here, Jake, and he is, of course, one of our many different winners so far this season. We haven't had a repeat winner in either a sprint or a main race, or even the both of them combined so far this season. And, well, there's still opportunity for other names to come to the forefront as well, which is crazy.
It really is, and it really does show. Through turn 4, this 90-degree right-hander, it feels so much more like a hairpin as you get through, and you're waiting forever to put the power on. And this is the tough corner out on circuit. You can see you dip down the hill, it really does bottom out through the middle, then you can put the power down and you're on to the second half of the circuit. I love that there's been 8 different winners in 8 different races. I think it just shows you the class of talent that's here in the Contender series, and I think it's a real shame that we're going to have to say goodbye to 20 drivers from the 35 that started off this series and say, you know what, it's only the best 15 that's going to find themselves in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup, getting a lot of angles, an uphill braking zone as well here into this chicane, which means you can brake a lot later than you traditionally be able to, and drivers will try to take advantage of that during the race, really trying to get up on that left-hand side curve, opening up this final corner, getting the drive over to the exit. Christopher Dambeats sets the initial time of a 1:25.9 as Simone Maria Marceno reaches the line. It's a 25.8. At the moment, it's only good enough for 4th.
Yeah, so 4th place for our previous time winner at Watkins Glen. It was a double race win for Altus Esports as Jordan Caruso came through on that one and took the sprint race win at the beginning of the previous events. Here's Victor Miranda heading his way across the line now. Can't quite see where he is in the order there, as he's got himself up into, well, he's towards the very back of the starting grid here at the moment, at least in terms of the times that have been set here, Tony. So not ideal for the number 8, but the field is so close. It's only a handful of seconds that dictate whether you're P1 or whether you're starting mid-pack.
Right, I mean, and you will see it, and you could see on Simone's lap. This track in real life, I mean, obviously iRacing does a great job with the graphics and in scanning the track, but if you look between the yellow line and the grass, there are a gutter. Those gutters, actually, it's for the drain when it rains, and those guys are using every inch of the track because, that little extra can make you help on the apex, help on the braking, you can brake a little deeper, and in a field that is this tight, I mean, every tenth counts. I mean, if you lose 2 tenths, you can lose 10 positions, and once you put all these guys, they're so competitive, they race so close, it's hard in a race space to pass 10 cars, so they're going to be using every inch. And if you notice also, guys, they before they open their lap in qualify, on the last corner right there, see how much they open? So that is actually just to open the lap, to take the green flag. They actually get extra, 2 or 3 kilometers an hour, 2-3 miles an hour quicker, 2 miles an hour quicker, going down to start finish line on the opening lap. That's another trick that we should use that in real life, I have to say.
Yeah, I think so too. And Tony, you're no stranger to stressful qualifying situations. You've done a good couple of Indy 500 qualifyings in your time. These drivers, they only have one fast lap to set in this qualifying session. That gives them the starting grid for the sprint race. Just give me a perspective of how stressful the drivers must be having it out there for these laps.
I used to say every qualifying that I've done at the Indy 500, I lost 3 years of my life because, for us it's 4 laps, but it's average of 4, so it's no different than 1 lap, and you have to be perfect, right? So you have to make a choice, and as a driver prospect, I mean, look at Thomas here. You go, okay, I made turn 1 good, and then you go, oh, I made turn 2 good, and you can see the split. And as you progress around the track, you start wondering, should I risk it more or should I guarantee? And it's a mental fight between you and your mind, like, it's like the good guy and the bad guy. You should take it easy on that corner. I mean, and then you get, in my opinion, one of the most difficult and inviting corners, which is the chicane, the S at the end of the lap, that you can lose everything. So, I mean, to me, sometimes I'm glad that I'm not driving, and qualifying today is one of those days.
Absolutely. It's incredible what these guys are able to do, and sometimes at such a young age, Jake, as well.
Yeah, and Duamos here is clear by almost 0.2 of a second on this qualifying lap time. And he was really, really strong about placing the car in the right position. And the one thing that I'm noticing over this lap is just how planted his Porsche is. There is no wheel spin out of any corner. He has got that on rails every single corner. He is taking pretty much as he possibly can out of it, and it does show. A lot of drivers have been conservative here today with their qualifying. Duomas wants to race for a championship, and he's done so by putting the car on pole.
Yeah, Tuomas Dattila looking to get another race win in the series, becoming the first repeat winner, perhaps, once we get to that sprint race session. We've got about 40 seconds here before we get the grid going. Tuomas Dattila is standing by with Tony Kanaan. Tony, take it away with our pole position setter.
Hey, Thomas. Welcome to the stream. How has been the preparation for this race? I know you guys getting down to the wire. I mean, you're trying to not just to qualifying. You're going for the championship. You're being very aggressive. Your setup, I have to say, always when you put it on the pole, people have a tendency to say, "Oh, your car looked great in qualifying. You look great in qualifying." But how much? I mean, it looks good. How confident are you about today?
Yeah, I don't know. Felt like a good lap. I didn't expect to be 2 tenths faster, but yeah. Only did some changes today to the setup and nothing crazy. So yeah, feeling pretty good. There's no real pressure anymore, so just gonna have some fun.
All right, good luck, man. Have some fun.
Thank you.
Well, there we go. Tuomas Dattila there, starting from pole position here in the sprint race at the Nürburgring for the penultimate race week meeting of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. And, well, this is how the starting grid looks here coming into the sprint race. Tuomas Dattila, pole position with Luca Kita with a fantastic qualifying, gets the Urano Esports car up into the front row as well. Valentin Mondenar in P3 with Julian Sunen in P4. Gustavo Ariel will start in P5 with Conton Violat P6. Lesse back in P7 with Kevin Nielsen in P8. Oscar Irina in P9 with last time out feature race winner Simone Murillo Marceno in P10. Andre Melkers in P11 with Sam Kaitert P12. Alessandro Bico P13 with Peter Berryman starting quite far down the order compared to where we're used to seeing him, down in P14 with Christopher Dambeat in P15. Jacob Maciejewski in P16 with David Williams P17. Jeff Agiassi starts in 18th here today, and then you have towards the back of the order Caruso, Collins, Zelensky. You've got Mangan there as well with Yarshall and Jensen bringing things down to P24. Oscar Bixrud, he starts from P25 here today in the sprint race, so a lot of work to do for a driver that's very close to the bubble spot, the P15-16 area. Then you've got Matti Sipula, Victor Miranda, Phil Bouchard, Alexei Niesov and Will Chadwick, the last of the drivers that have set qualifying times. Josh Thompson and Autro Melga will start towards the very back of the grid due to either not sending a time or penalties. But those are the drivers that we have running in this race, all getting themselves ready and prepared here for the sprint race at the Nürburgring for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. There they all are. Engine notes will be rising now, and soon we'll be charging our way down in towards turn number 1. We've got the green flag here at the Nürburgring as the field swarms by on the way down the hill into the turn 1 braking zone. We got 3 wide for P3 there with Gustavo Ariel trying to go around the outside. At the early stages, he's got Mondenach done. He might also get Sunen done as well here, coming through the arena section. What a start from the 21, Gustavo Ariel.
Great start by Ariel, but there was a double barrel roll on the back from Christopher Dambeats. He went off massive heading towards turn 2. But what work by Ariel? He really had to work against the 3 RHG cars, and there's a little bit of argy-bargy as they go through between Conton Violat and Lesse back. So the 2 Fire cars who are there 7th and 8th, they're looking at it. And let's not forget, Oscar Irina, this is for a transfer spot just behind that there in position number 9. He needs to get past Kevin Nilsson.
It was a great risk runner. I think, Ariel took advantage of trying to brake late, and then it gives you that turn 1 kind of lets you do that, and they went side by side. But great battle on the back there. I mean, that's pretty good start, I have to say.
Yep, and well, we did have a bit of carnage towards the very back with Dan Beats that Jake did mention. We'll be working on the replay of that one. There's a bit of swapping for positions further back as well. Bryn Collins trying to progress forwards in this race, and well, it's crucial for him to try and press forwards here, Jake, because he's one of those drivers currently outside of the top 15 just by that single position. So he needs a good day here at the Nürburgring to be able to get himself solidified into a slot where he can qualify for next season. Towards the back, though, there's all sorts of moves being made.
Oh, there absolutely are, and this is what I love about this circuit. It does give that opportunity to go and really make some moves happen, but the work being done right now, Kevin Nielsen in 8th position. Yes, there's Oscar Irine behind, but keep a focus on Luca Kita, who's up there in 2nd position right now in the Urano car. He comes into today's championship 25th. If he can get himself 2 results today inside the top 8, mark my words, he'll be up there scoring about 60 points and he'll be right in the picture for top 15.
Yeah, he will be, and that's what the drivers are going to be looking for here today. There's not a lot of points on offer now between now and, well, when we finish the season. If you had a poor start to the season, then this is where you have to make it up. Here's the replay of the start. I think for a moment we had 4, if not 5 wide here, Tony. What?
Oh, that was I mean, it was definitely everybody trying to find a space, and then unfortunately you got a big carnage there. Whoa, that was a big one.
Yeah,
once it started, it was a chain reaction, right? It's just one thing happened after the other.
Yeah, now you can see the desperation for these drivers. You know, I don't think in many other races at the top level we'll be seeing 5 wide in towards turn number 1, but drivers knowing what's at stake here, especially if they're just on that bubble spots, inside, outside of the top 15, every single point matters here from this point forwards in the 4 races that we have to go in the season. Got a little bit of battling further back though. This is Oscar Bixrud trying to defend from Josh Thompson as Johnson sends it to the inside at turn 2, forces Bixrud wide. Bixrud's not going to be too happy about that one. He falls back in line, but he immediately comes under threat from the Altus car of Mangan from behind there. An aggressive move from Thompson, which won't be appreciated, Jake.
It won't, and I think the issue there for Oscar Bixrud is he thought that he'd done enough to close the door up, and I thought he did as well. The only issue he had was Josh Thompson was always going to try and sniff for an opportunity at the inside and try and get it sorted. So that didn't quite work out. That wasn't quite the ideal scenario, but let's have a little look then down on the bottom right-hand side, going through the opening section of track, and that's how quickly you can go from hero to zero at the opening corner. It's so inviting going down through, and the TXC car there falling into a bit of trouble.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there, Tony, for your teamers. Oh, carnage on screen. Biko out into the grass there, trying to fight it out side by side through Vidal with Thompson. The battle continues on, though. Thompson on the outside of Bixrud as Bixrud tries to work his way back through. He's going to fall back, though, blocking all the way to the pit wall, though, goes Alexei Niesov. Forces Thompson to go the long way around, or at least attempt to, in towards turn number 1. How late on the brakes does Thompson go? Not quite late enough to be able to draw himself alongside, and now he's got Bixrud to be concerned about as well, as the advantage always switches through this arena section.
And yeah, look at it. I mean, look at this guy's battling, and now, I mean, they're the guys in front are pulling away, right? So that's going to be their own battle until the end of the race. If nothing's happened in the front, I think it's going to be hard for them to catch the front group now, because they're battling pretty hard among themselves.
I think they are as well, and well, we're on board with the number 99 car of Oscar Mangan. That's the Altus Esports machine, very much in the thick of things here, you could say, for Oscar Mangan. He hasn't, he hasn't gone forward, hasn't gone backwards in this race so far. He started 22nd, he's currently in 20 seconds, but there's still a few positions potentially for the pickings further down the road in the back end of this race. We're on, coming towards the end of lap number 4 of 11, so this race going by relatively quickly here, Jake. Mangan's obviously going to remain in line through Vidal here. It's such a risky move to try and overtake through there. I mean, we saw what happened earlier, right?
And just look at how much curb they're taking. Oscar Mangan was up on 2 wheels there through the first part of the chicane, and that pretty much leaves you as a passenger as you reach the second half, which makes that chicane just a little bit more difficult. He doesn't have the run on the group in front, and the key is the moment that any group starts battling, that's when everyone else can come back through. Now, I'm looking at this front group right now. Duomas Dattila leading this race here, this sprint race, lap 5 of 11. He hasn't been challenged yet by Luca Kita. Luca's been very patient, hasn't wanted to make a move. Why hasn't he wanted to make a move? Well, there's Gustavo Ariel, who's there behind, and that trio train of R8G machine cars. Of course, the team run by Roman Grosjean, and you've got Quentin Vialat, Valentin Mandanar, and Julien Sunern, who are all there, who all want to try and get up and get as many places as they can. I wouldn't risk the race just yet. You can go for the victory if you really, really want it, and by Jove, Luca Kita does want it. you're probably looking around lap 10, lap 11. That's when you really want to make it happen. And look at his face. Pure concentration there for Gustavo Ariel.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think Kita is just waiting for the right moment. Obviously, he doesn't have anything to lose. Like you said, he's 25th in the championship. He wants to get most points, and that means the win. We have to say that Thomas has more to lose than him. So will be interesting to see on the last, 3 laps, because obviously they all try not to bring more people into the fight right now, which is going to be pretty interesting. Look, he's looking around already, trying to measure. I think he's just playing and waiting for the right moment to try to make a move in Thomas.
I think the interesting thing to note here is that Kita up in second place, we haven't really seen him up here too often. He's all the way down in 26th place in terms of points at the moment. So a good result here today could propel him up towards that top 15, Jake, which is absolutely sorely needed for someone who hasn't even finished inside the top 13 so far this season.
And the key here is getting a finish, and it's going to sound so cliche, but you only get half the points in a sprint race compared to what you do in a total race. You get yourself 25 points for a win here in the sprint race. It's 50 points for a win in the main race. So the focus is, yes, you could get 25 points now, but you might be able to get 50 points later. And for Luca Kita right now, who's making that run at this point in time, he's just thinking about when is the right time to make that move. The man from Duisburg in Germany is really trying to put on a showcase at his virtual home race to get by Duomo Statala.
Look at that, the pressure being applied to the back of the Kova car at the moment. It's not the most that we've ever seen from a driver in this series so far, but I think Kita, as these laps tick by, will just be turning up the heat every single lap. You can see him looking to the inside and towards turn number 1, but there's no stinging that move just yet, TK. It's just Kita getting in his mirrors and trying to put him where he wants him, basically.
I think it's a cat and mouse game right now. I think, Thomas is actually saving tires a little bit. You can see that he's not going earlier on the throttle. He's like backing off the braking zones a little bit, trying to save towards the end, and maybe trying to bait Kita to actually get his tires hot, and then he will try to open a gap. Will be interesting to see. I might be wrong, but maybe you'll see when it's time to go. Maybe Thomas was just going to open that 2/10 gap that he had in qualifying and is going to keep it that way. I mean, it looks like that he's trying to make Kita to burn his tires.
An interesting thing to note here, Jake, we do actually have relatively cool track conditions out there. 21 degrees Celsius on the circuit at the moment, which is not high by any means, especially not as high as we've seen it in previous races this season. It just means those tires are going to survive just that little bit longer, and they might not even necessarily need so much help in terms of getting to the end.
It does also mean, though, that conditions are slightly more oversteery out there today for drivers. So they are going to have to be looking here, there and everywhere. Where is the right time to make the move? At what point do I want to go out there and showcase? As showcasing to the inside, Gustavo Ariel has a think about it into the mirrors, trying to think about the right way to make the move. I also want to keep a bit of progress on what's going on around 8th place, because it's still being held right now by Kevin Nilsson at this point in time, but there are 3 drivers behind who would absolutely love to have that main race pole position. You've got Oscar Irene, who's there. You've also got Peter Berryman, who's made great progress in this race, and of course the winner of the main race last time out, Simone Maria Marcheno. Those 3 drivers, Tony, what do you think about those 3 in terms of what they've done this season and their different motives in terms of trying to get up to that 8th place transfer?
Well, right now I think Simone is thinking about the points. He's in a good position there. He's locked in, more or less in the top 9 to advance with one more race. So I don't see him making big moves. But obviously, the other 2 guys, Nilsson and Reen, it's like, if you gain respectively 1 or 2 positions starting on the pole for the main, and that's probably what they'd be looking for. But it's always one of those things. You're gonna try, and you can either start on the pole in the main, or you can go all the way last as well, because the guy that is sitting in 8th, I would say Nilsson will be protecting quite a bit. That's probably the most wanted position on the grid right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, that definitely looks to be the case, and we saw how well in round 1 at Hockenheim, how well Jeffrey Jayassi was able to defend 8th place from an absolute armada of cars behind him, as we see Jordan Caruso attempting to make a move on, well, just the driver I was talking about, Jeffrey Jayassi, on the way through the first couple of corners, but we've seen some very solid defenses so far for reverse grid pole position, haven't we?
Which, you know, it's the position to have, right? I mean, the main is the one that counts more points. It's almost like the sprint, people are just measuring themselves, but then the guys in front have no option. You know, if they're in the top 4 or 5, you're not going to drop to 8th just because you want to go in the main. But then you get the guys from 7th to 13 that were running so close together, trying to, like, you know what, I want to be on the pole because I think I can hold everybody up in the main. So quite interesting with 3 to go. What's going to happen in the front pack, which is the top 3, they're running pretty close. Then I don't think anything really crazy is going to happen between the 4th and the 7th. And then you have from 8th to 12th, we included Giazzi, they're just like, they can sniff, they can start on the pole.
Yeah, Rina could make this. If he's able to get past Nielsen, he could make a potential Cover sprint race win turned into a Cover pole position for the feature event. Another little look, though, a little show of the nose from Kita. Again, no commitment in any of these moves just yet. But for Dattila, I mean, we know him as a driver that is relatively cool, as all Finns are, Jake, to take a country stereotype there. But with 2 laps to go, with cars this close behind you, I think even the coolest of drivers will start to worry a little bit.
Well, you sit for 11 laps of a race at the front, and that gap has never extended out more than 0.3 of a second through the entirety of the race. It shows you just how close those 2 drivers are on pure pace today, that they are pretty much sitting as resolute as they possibly can. But Luca Kita here is really close for this long right-hander. It's so important to get the run out of here because you get this slingshot up the hill through this fast right-hander. This might be the chance where we see this move, and Luca Kita thought about it to the inside, could have gone for the move there, but in fact decided just to lift off of it. Maybe the points outweigh the victory here today, heading towards the final lap. Another little look to the inside. He's trying to force a mistake.
He's so close. He is so close here, Jake, and we're going to head our way out of the final corner across the line to start the final lap. A little bit of a readjustment in the seating position there for Kita, chewing the gum on the way down in towards turn number 1. He's going to send it to the inside here on Thomas Dattila's wheel to wheel for the race lead on the final lap of the sprint race here. A little bit of a slide there from Kita. He's able to stick it around the outside still, though, but he's going to be losing ground here, and he's going to be losing ground to Ariel as well, who sticks it down the inside at turn number 3. This is a fantastic fight in your podium positions. Kita on the inside for 4, gives him the advantage and keeps him safe from Ariel for now, TK.
Yeah, that's not good, because look at what happened. The leader just took off. So, but Kita had to go, and I think he was looking. That was his chance. I doubted he's going to try now in the chicane, and now everybody's just going to settle it. But it was funny. I mean, I was actually getting on the edge of my seat when he almost like got out of the seat to try to pull the car forward out of his simulator. So great battle, man, great battle. But I think that's I think the race is pretty much settled now.
Yeah, it is an absolutely fantastic fight, but all good things must come to an end as they head their way up in towards the Vidal chicane for the final time here in the sprint race. Gotta keep it neat and tidy through there. I've seen so many drivers make a mistake through that chicane, take the curb a bit too much and ruin their days, but it's not a day ruined for Tuomas Dattila. It's our first repeat winner here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. Tuomas Dattila takes the sprint race win at the Nurburgring.
That is a thoroughly deserved victory, and that sometimes is the sort of victory that fans look at in terms of how you go about a race, how you go and get a victory and go, well, nothing happened, there was no lead change in that. That was the joy of that race in its entirety. Tuomas Dattila did everything in his power to keep Luca Kita behind, and the one time when Luca Kita tried to pounce, he used his smarts absolutely fantastically. Tuomas deserved that victory. It's his second victory of the season, and it gives him complete control of the overall championship.
I have to say, I'm sorry. Now, it tells you how great of qualifying Tatia did, because in the race he didn't have that advantage. You know, if you look at how close they raced, and in qualifying, you think a guy that qualified 2/10 quicker than everybody else, he was going to walk away. I mean, he definitely dominated, but it wasn't a easy win for sure.
It wasn't easy for Thomas Dattila whatsoever. He takes the race win here in the sprint race with Luca Kita with a season best finish by far for the number 11 Urano car in P2 in the sprint race. Gustavo Ariel gave it a good go, but he still is on the final step of the podium in the sprint race. Julian Sunin with Vanten Mondenat. Then we've got Konson Vialat, Lessebach, and Kevin Nielsen. So Nielsen will be confirmed as our reverse grid pole position sitter heading into our feature event. Escalerina missing out on that one narrowly with Peter Berryman in P10. And then further behind them, we've got Marcheno in P11, Piassi P12, Caruso P13, and so on and so forth. So as we prepare ourselves for our feature event here, we can have another little bit of a chat with Mr. TK himself. Tony, you know, again, it's absolutely fantastic to have you here and to have your team members compete in this series as well. Just talk me through how that came about with you having a sim racing team and building this partnership with your drivers.
Well, it's a long story, but I'll try to make it short for us. Obviously, COVID hit. I got introduced. I mean, I knew about simulations and stuff, but I was racing full time at the time, and didn't have a lot of time to spend in the simulator. And obviously, to become good and competitive, you have to spend hours and hours. So I had time, and with that, I met a few kids in Brazil that wanted it. They wanted to be race car drivers, and I've always tried to figure out a way to give it back to the sport. Obviously, in real life, if you're going to try to fund one or two kids in go-karts and try to take them to the ladder series all the way through Formula One or IndyCar or whatever their dreams are, it was too expensive. So we created a team. It was we called it the TK team, and I have now 17 kids that I help, and basically what we try to do is just give them the opportunity and the dream to become race car drivers. It is, on esports, I mean, Gustavo actually has aspirations to become a real race car driver, and I've been trying to help him that. And in the team, we try to help all the kids with everything, equipment. You know, you talk about direct drives, wheels, pedals, whatever they need, and also the support of my experience, my life experience. To follow your dreams and to be able to give people an opportunity. So that's the whole purpose of my team. It's not something that I'm looking to to make a living out of it. It's more of to give back to the community and make some of the dreams come true. Because I have to say, I probably have the coolest job of all of them in my team. But hopefully we'll make, if we can make 2 or 3 kids out of this team that become a real race car drivers because that's their aspirations, that will be my goal.
It certainly gives opportunities to drivers that may not have given those, may not have been had those opportunities available to them in their junior years. It's cost hundreds of thousands of whatever currency you can think of to get yourself into a kart for a season, and even more if you want to go into the junior formulas. So we always talk about sim racing having such a lower barrier to entry for drivers that might not have the funding to be able to compete in the real life series, and it's great seeing that you've been able to support these guys in everything that you do. Of course, you yourself are no stranger to sim racing. Of course, being a major face in the Peachtree charity races, in the Porsche All Stars event as well. What gets you so excited about sim racing?
I mean, this is what I do for a living. I race cars. I mean, since I was 8 years old, and the sim racing world, well, the good thing about it is I can drive 10 different cars at 10 different tracks all over the world in one sitting. So to me, it's fascinating. It's fascinating, the community. It keeps me competitive because I'm on my sim pretty much every day, at least for 2 hours. And if either I'm preparing for a real race or I'm just testing with the boys for a Porsche All-Star race that I don't want to look bad, or I'm doing some a couple races during the day because I love the track. We're talking about before the broadcast started, tracks that we love, that we think it's fun. So, I mean, to me, it's now I have an opportunity to basically drive every day. Apart from my physical training that I do, I still race full time, and various series actually. This year I did 4 different series, and then I'm basically on a race car every day.
Yeah, all of your work is very much appreciated, especially by those guys that you mentor as well. But we've got ourselves a feature race to get going on with here. We've got Kevin Nielsen on pole position with a teammate, the Heuer Esports, Lasse back on the front row as well. Kansen Violat P3 with Valentin Mondenach in P4. Julian Sunen and Gustavo Ariel will round out the front 3 rows of the starting grid here today. Luca Kita and Tumas Stadler will be on the road behind them. That's the end of the reverse grid. Everyone else lines up this feature race exactly where they finished in terms of the sprint race. So lots to look forward to here. Lots of drivers still looking to try and work their way through this order. Bryn Collins, one of them, Bobby Zelensky, so many other names further down the order that are looking to try and solidify their position inside of the top 15 that will give them a slot in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup for next season. We're about to get the green light once again here at the Nürburgring for the Contender Series. We are indeed off and away. Immediately, Violat going all the way towards the pit wall to try and defend P3 from behind. It's the 2 RHG teammates going side by side though, and Ariel again. I'm getting a bit of deja vu here as he sends it around the outside 3 wide in towards turn number 1, trying to get it done on the 2 RHG Esports cars. There's a bit of bumper banging going on further back, and believe it or not, Jake, Ariel's done it again.
You'd think they'd learn the first time at RHG, but they haven't shut off the outside line on the opening lap, and it's going to cost them again in this race. Gustavo Ariel has just known that that's the line he's going to take if he's on the outside going into the opening corner. It works like a charm, and you know what? He's going to start building a gap now because there's still some racing behind. Julian Sunen is going to lose out. Luca Kita as well has had an incredible start. He's up to 5th position as they now run through the left and the right, rushing back up the hill. Just some incredible work going on what is a much cleaner start, where everyone knows they've got a bit longer to work with here in this one. 22 laps and still a little bit of 2 wide as Duomos Datala on the outside now tries to hold off a bit of work going forward there, as that is going to be Oscar Irene, sorry, and Mondenach, another one upside down. That's a massive issue there at the chicane.
I saw Sipila dropping all the way down the order there as more fighting. There's Datala around the outside of Marceno on the way through the final corner there. So another bit of deja vu, I think, from lap 1 of the sprint race. Car upside down, Ariel going around the outside 3 wide as we see a bit of jostling for positions on the way down in towards turn number 1. Marceno still trying to fight it out with Datala there. A little bit of a door shove coming through the apex of the corner there, but I think Datala will have to try and cut his losses here. But Tony, that race starts. Is that a tip you gave Ariel? Because he's done it twice and he's executed to perfection twice.
He's being very aggressive. Not what we talked about, but I guess it's working. So he found a gap there, and I'm amazed that more people didn't follow him to do that. And obviously he made it clean through turn 1, and when they went side by side to turn 2, he had the inside and he took advantage of it. I think he had a great start from the standing start. He got the jump, and now he put himself in a pretty good position. And with those guys battling in the back, I mean, if you look at it, he's already almost 6/10 ahead of Kita. So they're gonna watch it. Otherwise, I think those top 4 guys they're gonna start to pull away.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a replay of what happened towards the final sector on that first lap. Here comes, that was Sipler getting punted by Melkers.
Yep.
And the worst bit about that is that Matti Siepler was a passenger the moment that contact comes along from Andre Makers. Makers is bottom of the table in the championship. That's an Apex car there that's slow on the front stretch. So that looks like that might be a slowdown penalty there for, I believe, Peter Berryman, who is going to drop a multitude of positions. But the moment you're a passenger in that sort of situation, TK, you look at that. At that point, you're just going to have to hope there's a gap when you go through that chicane.
Right. I mean, you close your eyes and you just hope that people will see you and they either accelerate or stop to let you by, and you can actually just spin and keep it going, which it wasn't the case, unfortunately. Yeah, but there was nothing he could do there. I mean, he got tapped right on the braking, and it's the worst feeling that you're trying to stop and actually your car is sped up.
It's a very scary incident, and whenever we see those sorts of incidents in real life, we just sort of hold our breath and hope everything's okay. But thankfully, these are simulated cars, so there's a very low chance of injury there unless you try to hold on to a direct drive wheel when that happens. But that's just the situation there. It's a shame for those drivers involved, especially for those in the middle of the corner that had absolutely nothing to do with that whatsoever as well. So many casualties in terms of that one. There's the battle for P number 9 at the moment. Well, it's technically about the P10 because Marciano and Caruso are a little bit closer together than Tattala a little bit further down the road. But I do want to bring this discussion, Jake, towards the very front of the field because we have the two Fire cars, P1, P2 at the moment, the Danish drivers at the very front, and this is a much-needed result so far for, let's say, Back. He was one of those drivers that we highlighted at the very start of the season to be an absolute force to be reckoned with here, but it simply hasn't turned out that way.
Well, he picked up the first victory in the sprint, and pretty much it's been looking backwards from that point onward, to the point where he comes into today, 14th in the championship on 95 points. He absolutely needed a round today, and he's gone and found that. He's in second position. He doesn't necessarily need the win today. His role right now is to be effectively rear gunner right now for his teammate Kevin Nilsson. He's got Conton Violat just behind. Gustavo Ariel's going to want to make progress. His goal is very simple. Stay in range, the number 3 car in front, and keep those behind. If he can manage that, stay and finish in second or third position here in this race, I think he's pretty much booked his ticket.
Yeah, I think so too. It sometimes only needs that one good race, group of races for you to try and secure yourself inside the top 15 in terms of the championship. Doesn't make you completely safe whatsoever, but definitely gives you a good chance at saying you're a Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup driver by the time we are done here in the races that we have. We've got this main race to go here at the Nürburgring, and then we head to Imola, the full Grand-Prix layout, to top off the season, which should be an absolutely fantastic couple of races to witness. But as these drivers head their way through and across the lineup, onto lap number 5 of 22 here, Nielsen has the benefit of a teammate being the rear gunner here, Tony. That's got to give him some confidence, got to calm his nerves somewhat.
100%. I mean, our first rule in my team is don't hit your teammates. So you kind of have a tendency to, you trust each other. They probably, test together this entire time, and they prepare themselves for this race together, so they know what each other's got. So that's actually a huge relief for sure. As far as having your teammate to protect you, and then he got your back. So hopefully, they'll stay clean because sometimes mistakes happen. But like you're mentioning how Nielsen and Back, I mean, they're still in the hunt, but also like he won that sprint and now he hasn't done a lot. One race can change so much for you psychologically, right? You can get your confidence back just even by finishing second. You don't necessarily have to win, and I think that will be the case there because they look pretty strong, and then he can put him and distance himself because right now there is a big fight between 13th and 15th, so they're in the bubble there. That will give him an extra cushion to go to Imola and say, you know what, now I can. There was a slowdown there.
Yeah, it was Jordan Caruso. So Caruso having problems there through the final couple of corners, having to take that slowdown penalty, allows Bryn Collins, Zelensky, Thompson all through in that situation. So that is crucial points lost there for Caruso as we watch this battle head their way down in towards turn number 1. We will get the opportunity for Tony to have a little bit of a chat with his fellow compatriots, Jeff Idiassi. Take it away.
Hey Jeff, hope you're well, man. I mean, a big props to you. You helped, all along all this winter to develop this car. How are you feeling about the race today?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. There's no way to be really happy about the second race. I think nothing anyone could have done. Just unfortunate, and to be the only one that gets taken out in such the middle of the pack, I'm like, I couldn't have been more people in this crash. Why just me? But it is what it is.
And Jeff, obviously now, are you going to change your strategy for Imola? Obviously, you still, you're there in the points. We got to see what's going to happen by the end of this race. But what would be your strategy going into Imola, knowing that obviously you have to be in the top 15? And as a fellow Brazilian, I'll be cheering for you to be in there. But what would be, we used to say, what's gone is gone. This race is over. You can't dwell on it. Unfortunately, it wasn't your fault, but you know, this is one of those things that happen. Are you starting your Imola preparation today?
Yeah, I'm surely gonna start it today. And the strategy, there's not much really strategy we can do for those races. It's pretty much qualify as best as you can. And in the race, people always say that I'm aggressive, but I always try to be as conservative as I can, because any points you get, it's so important in this championship. And fingers crossed I can have a good result at Imola. I do believe I'm still inside the top 15, even with the DNF. But fingers crossed I can still get a good result in Imola to finish the season with a good result.
All right, mate. Well, good luck, and we'll be cheering for you.
Thank you. Have a good race, guys. Good job.
Thank you very much, Jeff Giassi there from Team Redline. Unfortunately, retirement from this feature event, but still has positive vibes heading in towards our final round at Imola. Just to give you a little bit of an update, it is Kevin Nielsen that still leads from his teammate of Lasse back. Then you have Conton Violat and Gustavo Ario also in that leading pack. That's rounded out by Luca Kita and Julian Sunen. So this is going to be an interesting situation here, Jake, given the front two drivers. In fact, the vast majority of the front drivers haven't gotten themselves a feature race win yet. Nielsen and Back have a sprint race win under their belts, but none of them have a feature yet.
No, they don't. And as they all start trying to figure out which way you're going to go, defence turns to offence then for Conton Violat, who had to sneak his way to the inside, but he's on the wrong side of the train, because just trying to stick the nose up the inside, there's Gustavo Ariel. Now, turns 2 and 3 are crucial in terms of this lap, because they effectively work as one. You're always trying to set up turn 4 to get away, and Conton from Saint-Sulpice-La Pointe is now looking to try and really rush over to the Kazambingdon corner here. This very tough right-hander. He's got that safety now, but he can't afford to put himself in a position where he leaves himself vulnerable. This is the sort of series where you have to make the move in one corner, one overtaking opportunity. Otherwise, you're going to be staring behind for about half a lap as a pack of hungry wolves just get ready to just take the place that you had.
And these are pretty important decisions for Violat, because he's not entirely safe as far as the top 15 is concerned. He's down in P11 in terms of the point standings coming into today, so he does need to convert on this one. Maybe not, a P1, P2. A P3 will still certainly help his situation, but we all know racing drivers, they want to go and overtake the car ahead. They want to go for the race win. Sometimes may not necessarily be the best decision, TK.
I mean, a win is a win, so it's I can't blame anybody trying to go win the race. But on this fight, look what happens now, right? I mean, Viliate, it's been there aggressive. Look at that, and now they're just a little tap there, and the leader is going to take off. So it's going to be a big fight. I mean, obviously, Viliate is trying to win the race, and he knew he had to move one of his teammates. He had to move back to the back to try to get Nielsen, so it's going to get interesting from now on.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. That was quite a tap on the way in towards turn number 1. This is Zelensky and Thompson on the replay on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and Thompson turns him. Zelensky pointing in the wrong direction. I mean, he's had a pretty busy week, all things considered, but I don't think getting turned in the feature race of this series is going to be one of those things on the list that he was expecting, Jake.
No, but he'll still have to work from that and move back up those positions. I'll tell you what, though, that Violat pass was effectively one of the great block passes you can see. It's going to be a beautiful race in the middle of the pack right now to go through. Like some Oscar Mangan in there, Andre Makias is in there, Berryman, Maciejewski leading that pack for the Sabelt Esports team, and they've done really well with Maciejewski over the last couple of weeks to get him up there. Sam Keiter is also in that group. Remember, he was turned lap 1, turn 1.5, so to speak, when he was going through on that sprint race, so he's got work. But the Violat pass, I thought, was really incredible, Connery. He found that way at turn 1 to just make that block. And Tony, I'm going to come to you with this, because you ran in 93 when that was just a right-left chicane going through the opening section. This arena now, turns 1 through 4, how does that differ, this circuit, compared to what it used to be?
It's just like I said, it's more of momentum, right? You go through turn 1, basically, if you look at some of the battles, you can go through turn 1, through turn 2, and even turn 3 side by side. I mean, it's some of it that it's almost like turn 1 you can set up the guy to pass him in turn 2, depending on. And if you have a battle of 3 cars, you bet that the third guy actually has a much bigger advantage than the second guy, because the second guy tried to dive into turn 1 and they go side by side, and when they go side by side, the third guy can sneak in behind the P1 that is trying to hang on the inside for turn 2 and pass the guy that is sitting in P2. So it's more like always trying to time it right, but that is not a right way to do it. If you have the opportunity to pass in turn 1, you have to go for it.
Still riding on board here with Sam Keitel on the way through the Vidal chicane. Netherlands, of course, the number 28 Urano Esports car. It's sometimes a little bit tough to sort of keep your head in the game in the middle of these trains, because sometimes, Tony, I've heard from both sim drivers and real life drivers there, it's sometimes quite easy to really get yourself tunnel visioned and just to focus on the back of the car ahead of you instead of focusing on your own lines and your own strategy. Is that right?
100%. And then, you know, it's kind of like, obviously you're fighting the guy in front, but you kind of need to think and be aware about your surroundings. I mean, even your braking points, what kind of line you want to take, because, you know, you're trying to get the guy on the exit of the corner. It's so many things. If you get a tunnel vision just looking at the guy in front of you's headlights, then you get in trouble for that. So, but it's hard, right? I mean, when you're chasing someone, you try to either force him to brake deeper, try to make him, to force him to a mistake, or try to find a little space that you can dive in. And especially when you're making a pass, some of these tracks, they don't have even the markers, the brake markers on the inside. So it's only on the outside. So basically, let's say we go into turn 1 and you're trying to look at to the back to the brake markers to your right, but you're passing the guy, and the guy is blocking those because he's on your right. It's hard to figure out where to brake, so it's quite tough.
Maciejewski, did he get trapped on the curb a little bit there? I think he might have, and allows Oscar Mangan down the inside at the final corner, and Maciejewski's run going to be compromised slightly heading his way down the pit straight. He can try and dip back in, just get a little bit of the draft on the way down in towards turn 1, but he's also got to be concerned about Keitel as well. But he's not looking back, he's looking around the outside of Oscar Mangan, which is an optimistic move through there, and it doesn't really come off for him. And now he's gone back into a battle with Keitel. Look at how close they get through turn 2. Keitel still has the overlap there, but he has to wind it around the outside of turn 3, gifts the inside through turn 4, and Keitel gains the position, and all of a sudden Makias just bullies his way through, and there's the frustration from Maciejewski as well.
We just talked about that. We just talked about it, right?
Yeah, we did. We absolutely did.
That's just a wave goodbye. And the issue that Maciejewski has at that situation on the road is that he finds himself in a position where he makes one mistake. The moment he makes one mistake, he's in the wrong position for turn 1. Then he's got Sam Keitel, who puts an incredible move through turn 2 and turn 3. You can hold it around the outside, but you've got to have confidence in the car to do it, and he does. And the moment you get to turn 4, which is that 90-degree right-hand corner, you're in trouble, because it's a one-line shoot stall. Everyone wants to be on that exit curve on the outside, and the moment you're shoved out of that section, everyone else coming through. Now here comes Gustavo Ariel looking at this second position, and he's thinking, well, Conton Violat's not making enough progress. I'm just going to fly up the inside, big slide and stop. That's an incredible defense, but it's not over, because he's going to have to leave the room. Violat gets a little bit of contact. They're both going to push each other out. Let's say Back's got an opportunity to come, and this has suddenly lit up.
Both of them have a whole bunch of oversteer, through the first couple of corners. The battle's not over, but Violat has the outside. He can get the momentum off the corner and try and get himself clear. Ariel's concerned about Back, but Back has to now be concerned about Keita, because Keita's going the long way around at the cut through here. Let's see if he has the speed off the corner. He has the tiniest of overlaps there, and he's able to capitalize on it. Oh boy, as we ride on board with Ariel, there's the battle that I'm talking about further back between Keita and Back. And Keita, massive run off the corner, massive block by Lasse Back on the way down towards Ad Van Bogen. Oh, the Elbers are out now here, Jake, aren't they?
Oh, they absolutely are. This is some incredible action. Suddenly, Julian Soonern, the Belgian's up the inside making the move. So Luca Kita looks backwards, and suddenly all of that has brought Oscar Irene, Valentin Mondenac, Duomo Statala, Simone Maria Marceno. They're all there. TK, that is a crazy lap that we've just seen. Lap 13 of this race pretty much said, okay, we're going to have a motor race.
Amazing. But you know who's the happiest guy on the grid right now, right?
It's
Number
Nielsen,
3,
isn't it?
Nielsen. he's like, yeah, guys, have at it. You know, and I have to say the battle, it was amazing. But like, look, now we went from a 3-car battle to a 6-car battle. So we'll see. It's going to be really interesting. Looks like Gustavo is a little bit quicker than Viliate, but Viliate is trying to hang on. So that could bring all those guys back. And it's been an amazing fight. Pretty clean, actually, I have to say. They're all trying to get to the throttle sooner. So they're all wheel spinning, getting their tires hot. It's just, they're not doing themselves a favor, that's for sure.
Really not, and we've still got 9 laps of this feature race to go as well. You don't want to be taking too much out of the tyres at this stage because you would have nothing to fight with at the very end. Thankfully, like I said in the sprint race, we don't have too hot track conditions here today, so maybe you can abuse them a little bit more than you would otherwise, but it's still not ideal when you're slipping and sliding around, putting too much heat into those tyres, and you know, it takes a good couple of laps for those to cool down as well, don't they, Jake?
They do, especially when you hyperheat those tyres up. You have a little bit of a slide. It does take a while for those tyres to reach back to that operating window where they are so comfortable, and a lot of drivers have to drive within their means. That's a good move by Duomo Statala. He gets through on Simone Maria Marceno. Hard to the inside goes Conton Violat in the foreground of shot as he really tries to defend in towards the opening corner. Behind that, there goes Julian Soonern trying to find the move on Laissez back. He's not going to quite get there. Up the hill then at turn 2, trying to pivot around and find an angle. Might get a good enough drive here to have a lunge down the inside at turn 3, and is going to manage it. It's on the wrong side of the road for turn 4, so you're going to have to be brave here, or you're going to have to look for a cutback, or you're going to get pushed out wide like that. Luca Kita, freebie, might get 2 for 1 here as a great offer comes along for the Kazambing Dun corner.
Rene looking to capitalise on it. Kita down the inside here as well. Kita the big gainer out of all of that one. Soonen's able to hold the position to Rena and actually allows an opportunity for his teammate Monza, but Rene sends it in and he spins coming off the corner. I'm pretty sure that wasn't planned for the number 5 Cover Esports cars. He loses a couple of spots down outside of the top 10.
Wow, I didn't think he was going to stick that. I thought for the moment he was absolutely pushing for it, but Tony, he put everything in there, did Oscari, and then suddenly he just found out he had no grip left.
Right, I mean, he had to try it, and I think he got a little bit too hard on the throttle there and spun, but you know, he had nothing to lose, so he was going for it. You can't blame him for it.
Oh, pit lane, Laissez back. Laissez back coming down in, and this must be an instant point infringement. Indeed it is. The number 24 Fire car down and in from what was looking like a great feature race for Laissez back. It has turned to absolute pot for him as he drops down the order outside of the top 20 now. And for a driver that was looking for points to try and claw himself back further inside the top 15 at the end of today, that has really thrown a spanner into the works, Jake.
And this is what makes this series difficult. You get 17 instant points at the start of this race. Imagine it like 17 chips on a table. Every time you run off the road, you give 1 chip away and say that's how many you've got left. The moment your stack hits 0, that is a drive-through penalty. And it is so difficult when you're racing in and around drivers, because the moment that you make door-to-door contact, front-to-rear contact, that's 4 chips essentially that go off the table. It is such a very difficult system to work with. It's a fantastic way to create clean racing, but it's one which does punish drivers who find themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. And Laissez back, well, he finds himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, Connery, and that might be the moment that puts him in trouble when it comes to the top 15 of this Contender series.
What feels like the 5th or 6th time this season, because this just hasn't gone in any form of ideal way for Back, and now he's really having to rely on a stellar performance at Imola to even have a chance at qualifying. And for a driver who won the first race of this season, that is a huge surprise. This works out in the favour of Bryn Collins, though, because he was on the outside looking into the top 15 and is now P13 here in this race. And
P11 now.
Yeah, P11 now. He's at number 13, excuse me. He's looking on at a top 10 finish if he can get past Rene here, TK.
It will be interesting to see the points after this race. You know, the fight's going to be interesting. What they're going to get. We're going to have a pretty good idea by the end of the broadcast what's going to happen in Imola, who's going to be defending and who's going to be going for it. But it's a great race. I mean, how many battles we're seeing and people like sticking out on the line there because they know. I mean, after this race, it's one more to go, right? I mean, two, but the sprint race and the main in Imola.
Lots of pressure on those final races now. 6 laps to go in this one, however, in the main race at the Nürburgring. And, well, still very much undecided for everything, apart from the race lead here at the moment. Kevin Nielsen has really sailed off into the distance. He's got about 3 seconds now back to Vialat. So for Nielsen, it's a bit of a nice drive for these final 5 laps and get yourself to the checkered flag without any mistakes. But for everyone else in behind, we're watching a good couple of cars head their way through the pit straights and head their way down in towards turn number 1. We're on board with Makers here at the moment, who's trying to track down Sam Keitert. And a move to the inside here for Makers. Yes, it is. Down towards the inside of turn 1 and just about gets clear through the exit as well. Textbook.
Sam Keitert meets his maker. That is a brilliant move at turn 1. You have to use the slope there going down through. It descends and descends to about 2/3 of the way through the corner, and only then can you get that turn in to really put the power down off the exit. Wonderfully done by Andre Makers, and he knows that he's got a lot of work to do there. That was a pass for 15th position. Oscar Mangan a little ways away, a couple of seconds, and crucially running out of laps because it is 5 laps to go right now here in this one. And I think the races to keep in mind is the race for 2nd and 3rd, Conton Vialat and Gustavo Ariel, and maybe as well Jordan Caruso and Duomos Dattler. I've been keeping an eye on Jordan Caruso's laps. He's been the fastest driver out in this race, lap upon lap upon lap, Connery.
Looking very strong indeed, and Dattler, as our sprint race winner, might have to look to try and defend P8 here. And well, P8 doesn't matter much in terms of a main race finish. It does in a sprint race, it gives you pole position for the main, but it's just the points on offer now. And Dattler, well, you can argue that he doesn't necessarily need the points at this stage. He is very secure in terms of the top 15. Caruso, of course, maybe in a, well, not quite in a different situation. He's P3 in points at the moment, so they might even just keep this one out for a bit of fun.
I would say the battle for 2nd place between Vialat and Ariel, probably, if Ariel's smart and then Vialat needs more points. I mean, right now he's obviously sitting 11. Gustavo is sitting 6, so I think they're going to try to behave, especially, you know, with the gap of Nielsen. They know they can't win. The difference between 2nd and 3rd in points, it's not big. They're going to be thinking about the big picture for sure.
Indeed, and well, 2nd and 3rd points, the difference is 5 points. So it's 45 to 2nd place, it's 40 to 3rd place. And so if we're talking about championship hopes, then that might be significant. But given these guys have solidified themselves in the top 15 quite well, and feel like probably will by the time this race is done, then of course it's not a significant margin. It's all about the big picture, isn't it, TK? You got to be thinking about, okay, how does this affect things in terms of championship? You know, sometimes just playing it safe is the best way to go, even though it's probably not the most fun one.
Right. I mean, but you're talking about 2 championships here, right? Obviously, this one up until Imola, we're gonna crown the champion, but then the real one begins. And my question to my drivers is, do you think anybody's gonna remember who won the qualifier championship, or they're gonna remember who won the entire championship? So it's their choice to make.
This is a great battle, though, between Dattler and Caruso. Yep. Dattler still sticking it around the inside at turn 3. Caruso will have the inside of turn 4. It's fantastic, the arena section here at the Nürburgring. And it switches the advantage so many times, and it keeps these battles close. They're still absolutely level as they head their way through the cut through. A bit of oversteer, lots of oversteer for Thomas Dattler, and he falls in behind.
That was door to door and fantastic. Jordan Caruso had to really work for that. And let's consider the fact that right now he's in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia right now. It is very early in the morning, and it's the one disadvantage that the Australian sim racers have compared to everyone else is they have to wake up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, get up and go out there and sim race. And the fact that they can race at this level at that time of morning, that is what we would call endurance levels, I would say, Tony, of dedication to getting to the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup.
100%. Obviously, time difference, it's not in their favor. But I used to say I train while they sleep. So I get, I appreciate, obviously, they have to wake up at 3 in the morning to do this. But, look how, we have plenty of talented esports drivers coming out of down under. So it's amazing for sure.
Is incredible, and we've had an incredible race so far as well, and we're very close to finishing it. We've only got 2 more laps to go here. Time flies when you're having fun, especially here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series. And here's the grouping for P2 at the moment. So that's Via Lat. You've got Gustavo Ariel involved in that as well. They had their battles earlier on, and it might not be done just yet. We'll just have to wait and see what this last lap and a half holds. Kita is there waiting in the wings too as well, just in case things get a little bit too spicy. But Ariel losing a little bit of speed here on the way down through Advan Bogen, the gap growing just that little bit. So Violat does have a relatively comfortable gap heading on to the final lap here, Jake, but still being within the slipstream is not entirely comfortable, even if you can defend a move.
And Ariel's been searching every which way on the 17-year-old Conton Via Lat to try and find this overtake. He's been trying everything in the sim racer's hand guide, and to that extent the racer's hand guide, on how to make an overtake. Rule 1 is you get as wide as you can in the mirrors. If that doesn't work, then you're going to have to start searching. This is the best place you're going to get it. He's not going to find it there because that's a very aggressive inside line by Conton Via Lat. He does more than enough then to hold that place for now. But this is the sort of race where you want to test how good a driver is. Conton's defensive skills, I would say, are grade A. There's not much that you can say or fault that he's done wrong in this race.
It's been stellar, absolutely stellar for Violat at the moment. He should be proud of this performance, and he'd be even prouder of it in about potentially a minute or so's time if he comes across the line in P2 and gaining those much needed points to secure himself inside the top 15. Ariel, of course, his situation may be a little different. Of course, he was relatively safe in the top 15 coming into the day, and this is just going to secure it for him. So it might just be a little bit too risky going for a move so far back here on the final lap. But a driver that we haven't really talked about over the course of this race, it's our reverse grid pole position sitter, becomes feature race winner. Fira Sim Sports Kevin Nielsen heads his way through the final corner to take a race win in the feature race here at the Nürburgring in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series. He grabs a feature, he already has a sprint, but he gains a whole bunch of points to his name now as we get ourselves on the cool down lap and everyone else comes across the line basically as they start the final lap. No late race battles here, at least in the top half of the field. Everyone else heading their way across the line now to finish their particular races. But we had a very interesting one, Jake, here at the Nürburgring.
Business as usual, you could say there for Kevin Nielsen. That was pretty much as comprehensive as it really can get. That was about just trying to find the patience out there, and those drivers who are going to push the margins a little bit further, well, they were always going to run into troubles. Drivers like Laissez Back, this is the most all-important points, and there is an individual point marker or a point value that comes out of this stage, very similar to an independent chip value, for example, that you get in poker. It's very, very similar, and in terms of that, it's that value of points. What is a point actually worth right now? It's worth a lot more than it was at the start of the season. That's why it was so important for Kevin Nielsen to get the victory in the way he did.
There's the number 83 car, Bobby Zelensky, of course, competed in the top level of NASCAR racing here on iRacing just a few short days ago, and well, narrowly missed out in terms of that one as well. So it's not been a fantastic past couple of days for Bobby Zelensky as we head into the Bose post-race show here at the Nürburgring. And well, there's the confirmation of the results from the feature race. Kevin Nielsen takes the race win from Kenton Violat from Gustavo Ariel. Gets himself another podium here today. Luca Kita P4 with Julian Sunan in P5. Valentin Mandanar in P6 with Simone Maria Barciano P7. John Caruso P8. Thomas Dattila and Escaviolina, the two Cover Esports cars, round out the top 10 in terms of the results here today in the feature race. They're not going to be complaining too much about the points that's on offer for those positions either, especially in a feature event. Peter Berryman P11 with Bryn Collins P12. Josh Thompson P13 with Oscar Mangan and Andre Melkers rounding out the top 15. Then you got Kajtet, Maciejewski, Bigstrud, Jensen and Pico topping off the top 20 cars. And everyone else not having a too fantastic of a day. Alexei Niesov, Philippe Bouchard, Victor Miranda, Outro Melgar, let's say back in particular with that drive-through penalty due to an instant limit infringement. That one is really gonna hurt, that number 24 car. Bobby Zelensky P26, we've got David Williams and a good couple of others finishing down the order. But as we get ourselves the racing all done, but we haven't got everything all done yet because we got to speak to a good couple of our drivers. And Tony, I'm going to give you the responsibility of talking to our feature race winner of Kevin Nielsen.
That's a big responsibility. Congratulations, Kevin. Good job. Obviously, it looked like you had the race in the bag from the get-go. I mean, you had your teammate back there kind of helping you a little bit, but it looked like you benefited from them fighting in the back. You looked like you saved your tires at the end. How was your race?
Yeah, obviously it was just about saving the tires in the start because I had Lasse in the back. And as soon as I saw they started fighting and Quinton got up to P2, I knew it was just about using the tires of the tires I saved. And then Gustavo and Quinton, of course, fight it. And yeah, it was a big relief for me because I could take it more easy. It's great.
So obviously with the win, it pretty much locks you in for the Imola and then beyond that. So what will be your strategy? Are you going for another win the next race, or are you just going to play safe, try to think about the big picture?
Yeah, obviously I will still try to see if I can win. It's what I drive for, and yeah, I always opt for the win. So yeah, I will still go for the win for sure.
Good job today, man. Congratulations.
Thank you, Tony.
There we go. That was Kevin Nielsen taking the feature race win here at the Nürburgring for the Contender Series. We do have a couple of more drivers that we would like to talk to as well. I'm seeing, we get ourselves Conson Violat, who I prefer to tilt his camera down a little bit just to show more of his wonderful face. But Jake, you're standing by with him.
Conton, that in terms of a race for you was all about defensive effort because you had to work your way up into that second position. There was contact there with Lasse back in the middle of the race. And from that point onwards, just describe how difficult it was to keep someone like Gustavo Ariel behind, who had made great progress in the early parts of the race to get right up into that battle with you.
Yeah, that was very, very tough. Gustavo was very aggressive. I already raced with them on this track in official races, and I knew that he knew how I would defend. So I tried to defend as I would have done with like everyone, and at the end it was enough. I think he just at some point gave up and didn't take any risk, any stupid risk. So it was really, really, really good race.
The entire team looked pretty good today. Of course, Julien was up there, Valentin was up there, you having a great race to this P2. Are you looking now at really building some momentum, seeing as you've got at least two of your drivers you feel, I would say, comfortable and safe now at booking a place inside that top 15? Is your mind starting to wander over towards the Esports Supercup as a whole, or are you still thinking about we've got to get the job done at Imola next week?
I think we are pretty sure that we will be like in the PESC next year. But we still have to do some job for the next week because obviously we are never really safe. But yeah, the rock will be definitely a bit lighter than this week.
Well, the rock will be a bit lighter. There'll be less pressure on it. Contender at their second position overall from Saint-Sulpice-la-Pointe in France, which leaves Tony Kanaan over with a very interesting interview because you'll be talking to your own driver, Gustavo Ariel, P3.
That's not fair. I mean, anyway, Gustavo, congratulations. Looks like you were the driver that scored most points between the two. I want you to talk about your starts. What was your strategy there? Obviously, you found a way that people didn't follow you, which I was amazed after what you did in the first, on the sprint race. What was the strategy there? Because it looks like you took a lot of risk.
Yeah, it was really fun. The start. Before the start, I was talking to my Twitch chat and say, mate, maybe I will go outside in turn one because last season we did a lot of officials and that move was really normal to do in that situation and gain like 2 positions. So work on the 2 races, and mainly my only overtakes on the race are on that turn 1 on lap 1. So really happy with that move.
That was risky, right? Because obviously going on the outside, you never know. Things would happen on the inside. Somebody could wash up and hit you. But obviously you managed both times. How was the battle with Viliati? I mean, you heard him. He thought you were very aggressive, especially. I think he had a little bit of damage, so you kind of had the little bit of an edge. How was that battle there?
Yeah, I was trying to see his rhythm because this car it's very difficult to manage the tires. So after lap 10, he started to do a bit of slide on the last corner. So the main overtaking point is on the turn 1. So I'm very confident with the brakes. This car, this setup in that race. So I was trying to do some moves outside. Even on turn 1 in lap 11, so it was really tricky to do it, but I think the battle was fun and on the limit. So he's a very aggressive driver, and yeah, it's always good fight with him.
So you locked in for almost certain. I haven't seen the points. So what's going to be the strategy for Imola?
Yeah, Imola, it's very fun. In the past quali on the first qualifying rounds, I did the pole position on Imola. So yeah, it's one of my favorite tracks, and let's try to do a good setup for Imola. We have the Brazilian Basque, so it's happening in 3 days. So will be tough because we need to do the setup in 2 days for PESC Brazil, and after that training more to the Contender series. So it's a pleasure to do a lot of championships. It's very busy to do it on perfect conditions, but I think we can manage a lot with the team and we can do it for sure.
Good job, mate. Really good job. Proud of you.
Thanks so much, boss.
Well, there we go. Tony Kanaan there speaking with one of his team members of Gustavo Ariel after a fantastic P3 finish here in the main event. But let's get a little bit of a look, Jake, at the updated points. It does mean that we have Thomas Dachtela that gets himself towards the very top of the order, but that is quite insignificant compared to what's going on down in and around P15. So we've got Jeff Ajayasi, P12, let's say back P13. He doesn't drop out of the top 15 out after that unfortunate situation in the main event. Kita and Nesov are inside as well. Bixrud, despite his efforts, is outside, but that's only on a technicality on countback in terms of races because he's tied with Nesov on that bubble spot.
I get to talk about the tiebreaker rules, and I'm really happy right now. So the way that this works is, First of all, who's got the most main series wins? So those bigger races, those longer races that are the full distance, who's got the most wins? It's 0 to 0 between them. We go down. Who's got the most top 5s? If that's still a tie, it's then average finish in the main race. Then it is about instant count, and then it is laps led. That is how the tiebreaker system works. That's why Alexei Niesov finds himself ahead. And I tell you what, this is going to be a really, really interesting run towards the end, because Luca Kita, he's only 1 point clear of that group in front. And you've got drivers like Bryn Collins. Bryn Collins is only 16, and he might put himself into the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup in the final round at Imola, which is my favourite track of them all. I absolutely love that place. It's probably the greatest single lap that you can ever put together. Every corner has weight and meaning and history and heritage. And Connery, this is going to be an amazing finale to the Contenders series.
It absolutely is. There are so many drivers, like you said, in and around that top 15 spot, where there are so many different configurations they can finish the next 2 races in, which decides which of them gets themselves a slot in the Super Cup for next season. That is incredibly exciting, Tony, and to do it at a finale such as Imola coming up, that is a big stage to have such an important competition draw itself to a close as well.
No, 100%. I'm going to ask, can I come back here? I enjoy this a lot, so I want to hang with you guys.
It means so much to me to hear you say that. I've been sort of pinching myself over the course of this broadcast, but yeah. Any thoughts on Imola, Jake? I know you've said a few of them already. It seems like you're a big fan.
I am a big fan, and it's the sort of circuit that when you go to, you just have an understanding of how you need to go about this circuit, how you need to go and approach it. You take the run of the first 2 chicanes, Tamburello and the Villeneuve chicane. Those are trendsetters of the lap. That Toza hairpin is so underrated as a corner. You crest the rise, it's so easy to spin the rear tyres out through that section. Piratella is a really committed corner. Down the hill towards Acqua Minerale, you've got to be there. Yes, the Variante Alta isn't as much of an aggressive right-left as it used to be, but now it becomes an overtaking opportunity because you have to be there on the brakes. And then you've got that downhill turn right, turn as you brake, heading towards the 2 Ravazza corners that end the lap. There is not a better circuit out there for a lap. If you want to do 1 lap, if I had 1 lap left in my entire life, I would go to this circuit and absolutely go for it. This is an incredible place to go out there and race, and the truest racers out there are going to have the best pace when it comes to this race.
An incredible place to race and an incredible place to end the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series season. This is where dreams are made and dreams are broken. 15 drivers at the end of those 2 races will book themselves a slot inside the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup for the next season. The rest of them, well, they'll just have to look forward to next year. But that's all that we're going to have time for here from this penultimate round here at the Nürburgring. I've been Connery Maddock. I've been joined by the ever wonderful Jake Sperry and our very, very special guest, Tony Kanaan. But we'll see you at Imola for the finale.